And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Bench with Bubba, episode 597. The All-Star game just wrapped up. National League won their first game since 2012. So that actually, thanks to Elias Diaz and his 2-run home run. Go figure. But we're going to talk some fantasy baseball. We're going to recap Week 15 in FAAB, talk some second-half strategy, maybe some trade situations, and much, much more. You can find myself on Twitter at BDentric, and I'm once again joined by the king himself, the man that is a threads machine. You can find him on Twitter at Mike_Kurland. I don't know what his threads is because I haven't given in yet. But Mike, how we doing, my friend?
I don't even know what my threads is. I had an Instagram account. I saw that Facebook or Meta, whatever they're called, copied another platform, and I'm like, well, I told you, if there was ever a platform that could pick up some steam, it would be something that like is backed by Facebook and a multi-billion-dollar company. So I literally just said, okay, sure, I'll join. It took 2 seconds because I already had the Instagram account. So I don't even know what it is. I think it's actually GTE Media or something like that. Like something that I created. I took over an old Instagram account and created and turned it into our branding because I've been trying to get. It doesn't matter. I pretty much just copy and paste my tweets there. And honestly, I'm kind of behind on a couple tweets. So
I'm just messing with you.
No, I know you are, but it's funny because like I just do it for other people. Not everyone wants to stay on Twitter. I don't think Twitter's going anywhere. I'm like you. I don't think it breaks from time to time because Elon goes full Elon, which you're never supposed to go full Elon, but he does, and he pisses people off, and everyone panics and such. But I think Twitter's here to stay. I created threads just because in case anybody else wanted to leave and wanted a secondary option to consume my content.
It's fair because everyone wants the King's content, so they need to go check it out.
Yeah,
on threads.
That's what it is.
Speaking of the King, Mr. Kurland entered the All-Star break 8th overall in the main event, so he's top 10 in it.
We're back. We're back.
Yeah, he had some ups and downs there. We'll get to that with a Michael Simeone question later. But let's get right into it. Second half approach to continuing moving up the overall standings instead of moving backwards, because like the grind does not stop. The grind actually might get harder depending on what stats you're looking for what situations you're in, the depth of like, the main event, the OCs, whatever overalls you guys are playing in. So how are you approaching, like, you're probably not changing a ton, honestly, because the work you put in, but are you being much, much, much more like diligent on certain statistics? Are you trying to get the best optimal lineup? Like overall, how are you approaching your second half?
I wish I had more experience, to be completely honest. Obviously, I've never even played in a main event before this year. So to be in my first main event, having the success I've had, obviously my approach, I like to think it's obviously working rather well. And I found a process I enjoy and I like, but it does change in the second half. You're going to start having teams shut down players. You're going to have random call-ups, random players shut down. You kind of have to start trying to anticipate that. Like look at your team and be like Yuri Perez, I know he's not going to be down for long, but even when he comes back up, will he be limited? You have to kind of make these contingency plans. And I'm a little more liberal with stashing, although I did just drop Kyle Wright, which we'll talk about later, and it's because of other stashes I'm holding. But I'm trying to hold on to certain players I think can be difference makers, even if it's for 4 to 6 weeks, because before you know it, that's all that's going to be left. You know how fast the season goes. We're going to have week 16 is going to be a 3-day week. Week 17, next thing you know, it's week 20. And then you're looking at you're less than 10 weeks left in the season. So it's one of those things where I'm really taking it period by period, not even week by week. I'm taking it scoring period by scoring period, trying to optimize as many play appearances as all. I'm pretty much doing the same thing always, but like as you know, behind the scenes, I'm working on trying to. I'm almost done scraping the rest of the season weekly schedules for every single team, so I can start getting an idea of streamers I want to target, like so I can be 2 or 3 weeks ahead, even on a hitter streamer type of thing. I'm really getting that granular because I want I'm turning over every stone, trying to get every possible edge I could possibly get to really bring this home. Obviously, first place is always the goal in any league, but the overall specifically, I'm like 500 something points out of first, so it's still a long haul, and I just had to crawl out of dropping, I think 400 after I hit first place. I saw the email, and I think I dropped like 400 or 500 points the next 10 days after that, and it's been a slow, steady grind upward. And we're finally back into the top 10, and the team is clicking rather well right now. So hopefully it comes out the gate swinging. But this is, a team that, and I was talking to Boom for a little bit. I'm like, yeah, it was in spite of Darvish's terrible, rough first half, and minor injuries, knick-knack injuries here and there, being sick. It was in spite of Woodruff being injured. So maybe if Darvish returns to form, Woodruff is back for a solid month and a half even. That could just be those extra little boosts that put me over the top, and maybe I get lucky, and some of the guys that overperformed in the first half can just continue to be good and still overperform a little bit in the second half, or maybe that's just who they are. It's still to be determined. But at the end of the day, there's a lot that goes in the second half approach. I know I've rambled on because it's hashtag my main season, but in all seriousness though, it's exciting. There's just a lot that goes into it. And like you mentioned, I'm keeping a lot of the same tendencies and what I'm doing week to week all season, but I'm starting to factor in what these teams, trades are coming up or potentially coming up and the fallout and who could be sneak. Maybe there's some guys that were called up for a game or two for spot starts early in the year that are in the player pool that are about to open. Oh, now they're about to get full-time playing time because I anticipate so-and-so getting traded. So I'm probably going to go through and I'll do it for the Patreon. Make a list of like, hey, these are some random guys on the 40-man or some random like prospects that might not have any hype that might be available in the player pool. Just go ahead and give them a look. Maybe throw them on your roster a week or two early because come the trade deadline, they could be entering an everyday role. So stuff like that.
Yeah, the trade deadline is going to be interesting because there's so many teams still kind of in it at this point in time. We have a few more weeks before the trade deadline actually happens to maybe change some of that. Like we'll get into some trade deadline situations here in a bit, but back to your process because I'm in the same boat. Like I'm not an 8th overall in the main event, but I have some teams that are playing well. Don't get me wrong, that I like to keep competing in, and I've talked about it on recent episodes how I'm like already targeting certain teams. I'm crushing like pitching, horrible and hitting, and vice versa. It's really bizarre, honestly. And so I've been really focusing my weekly FAAB on those situations. And we'll talk about stashing. I was in stashing season this last weekend. So there wasn't a ton, especially in 12 teamers, that I was like, I don't really need a lot of these things. I was in a stashing season this last week, and that might change come this Sunday. Maybe those stashes get dropped. But for a couple bucks, I was willing to stash them for now and see where things go. But it is interesting. Like you can make up a lot of ground still. That's the caveat I wanted to mention. Just because we're a little over halfway through the season and everything, you can still move. Like I've moved a bunch in certain leagues just over the last month, and I know it's getting tighter, obviously, as you could say. But like Rob Silver, when he won the overall, he was 8th or 9th in his main at the All-Star break, and he won the overall competition. So you can make moves. You obviously have to hit big, and those were years where you had a bunch of FAAB left, so you can go and get guys. That's kind of a different story nowadays. So that'll make things definitely enticing and a little more even of a playing field, I would say, in certain leagues. But
absolutely, I'm down to $74, I think, in my main. And so I looked at it, and I was talking to Phil behind the scenes, because I'm a big time guy now. I get to talk to, I get access to the robot.
You're the king.
I'm the king, right? Yeah. So no, me and Phil were talking a little bit, and he's talking about because he has X amount. He's like, he thinks he has too much FAAB left. Like he might not have been more aggressive enough. And we were just talking back and forth. But he's in a position where he's got the hammer almost every week in a sense. And I'm like, well, it must be nice, but at the same time, I'm like, well, and then pretty much came down to the difference between us is that I spent my money earlier, and I think I already had those players that he's pretty much banking on getting. You know what I mean? Like players that he thinks are going to be able to help him take it up a level. I'm like, I think that's why I spent my FAAB on players. I think they're already going to do that for me. And he was like, and that's pretty much how I was like, that's fair. That's why his responsibility was like, that's fair. And I'm like, yeah, because I went out, I lost Royce Lewis. I went out and got Westberg. I got Cowser. I got lucky and got Cowser. We'll talk about that too. I got Cowser this week and wasn't even in need. So it's like I'm over here accumulating potential talent upside, and I'm trying to kind of leave myself with a very full roster where I have to do minimal moves. And I'm able to kind of put the upside on my bench or minimize how much I have to stream. Even though I enjoy streaming, I think streaming is actually a very beneficial thing to do, especially on the hitting side. And I think that's something that I liked how I attacked the draft this year. Not all my pitchers hit. I mentioned a couple of fails, but I think looking back, I think going forward, I think I'm gonna do the same thing. Like pitching, and I'm sure you'll talk about the Bloom board on Thursday's pod with Bloomfield, but he brought up all the pitching misses in the first 30 or 40 picks, whatever it was, or 50 picks, and I'm like, I had two of my top 3 starters were on that list in a bad way, and it goes to show you that even if you do a certain strategy, it won't always hit. It's one of those things where I think I had that year. I've had this year where I hit on every single late round pitcher, which won't happen like to this hit rate. I don't think I'll ever have a hit rate like this again. There's not going to be a year where I draft that year's Justin Steele, that year's Brian Bayo, and that year's Sonny Gray all on the same roster. You know what I mean? On a 15 teamer, there's no way I'm going to draft all 3 of those.
Makes sense. If you're having a great year and you're running hot, you ran hot. You did well. Like you're going to be able to avoid these things. That's common sense. But
it was the fact that I hit all those, and I picked up Braxton Garrett for very cheap in FAAB. So I've had all 4 of those guys from pretty much day one while missing on 2 of my top 3 starting pitchers. And that's the type of thing where obviously my process worked out to hit on those guys, but I can't ever depend to hit on those guys at that rate ever again. So I need to get, like, just like everyone else, we all need to be more efficient hitting on those early round pitchers, because pitchers keep getting pushed up.
I want to comment on that because Bloomfield's board, for those that didn't see, it was the top 30 ADP starting pitchers and where they rank now at the All-Star rank and SP ranks. And so then Vlad Sedler just made it simple. He said 18 of the top 30, 18 of the current top 30 pitchers were not drafted in the top 30. So basically 12 of the top 30 ADP are actually still in the top 30. That's what that comes down to.
You had to hit on them.
Yeah, but to the point about efficiency, we say this every year, and I want to mention Mike Gianella from Baseball Prospectus quote tweeted Vlad's tweet, and this made it really stand out to me. Okay, so this is 2023 that the 12 of the 30 are still in the top 30. In 2022, 19 of the top 30 in ADP finished in the top 30. In 21, only 14 of 30. In 2019, only 15. In 2018, only 16. In 2017, only 17. So you're give or take about half of the top 30 pitchers every year since 2017 are only going to finish in the top 30. So there's almost half of those guys are going to bust your situation. So I don't even know if there's a right formula to the madness, but it goes to show you that there's a reason why, especially in like deeper leagues, main events, that people take pitching early. There's also reasons why when we thought the pitching pool was this deep this year, that especially in 12s, you could wait and say, screw it. Cause it's like, we're rolling the dice, and you still had to get lucky. Cause even on Bloomfield's board, it showed like the ADP 16 through 30 basically was a real crapshoot. Like it was real dicey. So you still kind of got what you're hoping for early on, not from everybody, but it just goes to show you that pitching's wild. And it goes back to a point you were making that I'd much rather stream hitters right now. Take my pitchers. I don't care about the 2 starts as often anymore. Just give me some quality. We'll move on from there and then stream my hitters. And that's why actually in the leagues where I'm struggling in hitting, I actually kind of feel confident at least making moves to cash and whatnot. 'Cause like I can stream enough stuff here and make it work. So we'll see how that plays out.
And to touch on more some second half approach, I think we talked about it off the air before we got started, was attacking, and you mentioned a little bit about attacking categories. I'm one of those psychos that I'm looking at category needs really early on in the year. I mean, this year maybe I was a little hyper focused because I was just amped up at everything, the fast start, and I sustained it and all that. So maybe that had me going crazy, but I started like mid to late May, early June, looking at my team and looking at not so much the overall standings, but my actual individual standings, realizing where can I gain the most points in my individual league. Most likely was going to lead me to what I needed to be more competitive in the overall. I know league to league, it varies. Like my league, I think we have 3 players with 115 or more stolen bases in a 15-team league for reference, or I think 4 of us. I think there's 4 of us have many stolen bases. Now, when you go look at the overall, I'm like top 20 or 30 overall out of 795 leagues in stolen bases. So that's one of those weird ones where I can gain a few more league points, but maybe I don't need to be so like punting another category to chase those stolen bases, so to speak. But like a category.
Quick question for you. Are you going to start looking at your FAAB to get overall points or league points?
Now that we're talking what we have 10 weeks left roughly in the season, give or take. 11.
Yeah.
I think we have 27 work weeks of, but this is a 3-game week. So we'll say about 10 more weeks, right?
10 full weeks of FAAB.
10 full weeks. I'm going to probably be looking to be more aggressive on the overall. I mean, being 8th overall, I really want to obviously try to push for the overall. Yeah. I think that's the shift. I mean, I've already shifted towards the overall, even though for the last month, I still want to win my league. So it just so happens that, but it goes back to, other than the stolen base category I mentioned in my specific league, where I'm one of like 4 teams with 115 or more, and I think I'm in 4th place in my league for stolen bases, so I know I can gain some actual league points there. Maybe I would shift towards that if I'm not gaining like I think I can gain in them overall still. But I think I'm not so much punting stolen bases. I'm just gonna kind of let my guys go, but I'm gonna attack other needs because I think right now I can still gain points in other categories, and in the other categories I can gain points. I actually need those categories more to gain more overall points anyway. So I'm more
there's where I was going.
So there's still some points to gain. There's still some points to gain in my categories in both my league and the overall. So it kind of works out for me in this situation where I can still gain league points while gaining overall points. And I have a hard time believing that wouldn't be the case for a lot of people, but there are people that just, you do the math and you realize, okay, maybe I don't need this as much as I do, but like, I know, like, just I think my biggest 3, I talked about runs were a big one because I had India and Acuna both pegged as leadoff hitters for this year, and neither one of them are leading off. And Mullins, not only is he not leading off, but he got shifted down to the 5 and 6 spot since returning in kind of slow start. And then you have India, who's been batting third. So of course I'm crushing it in RBIs all of a sudden, and that wasn't part of the plan. I thought RBIs were going to be an issue, but no, I've managed to find a fair share of middle of the order bats. And now it's like, but then so I'm chasing runs. So when you're chasing runs, you want a guy that's batting top 2 or 3, and you want plate appearances. And that's like the only names available in these formats are like Tony Kemp. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I know Tony Kemp makes sense when you try to pair plate appearances and lineup spot and playing time. But I can't. There's just so much.
I'd rather have Garrett Cooper hitting 3rd or 4th for the Marlins type scenario.
But that's the thing. So it's like I'm getting less play appearances, but I want the quality because I think I can still get more. I could get similar run production from a 4 or 5 hitter on a better team if I can land one. But again, it goes back to, is there really any of those even available in a 15-teamer? And it's like I got Cowser, but it's like, how's Cowser really going to make my roster batting 8th when I need runs?
At the bottom of the order, he walks all the freaking time, which OBP doesn't really help you as much. And
well, it helps me for runs, but not when you're batting 8th. Not when you're batting 8th. I don't mind. I don't mind giving up a little bit. Like, I'm doing well in home runs and RBI, so there's going to come a week where it's like you'll see me stream guys that like I'll do my best to get as many top lineup guys that just try to attack play. I'm already. That's another thing. I've been trying to attack play appearances all year, and I'm still one of like among teams in top 10. I'm still one of the lower play appearance guys. I'm a guy who watches for play appearances and makes FAAB moves based on playing time. I still can't seem to get the play appearances I've been trying to get all year. So it's really crazy to me. I've been getting good quality. Like I've been running numbers a little bit behind. I'm behind on them now, but my streamers, when I do this year, I'm going to go back and look at every single week who I streamed and see how well I can get a true outcome of the stats I got from streaming hitters and see if it was actually as good as I think it is. And then on top of that, it's like, I got to think, I hope I can repeat that. Cause if that's a strength of mine, then I think it is, considering my process. It's one of those things where there's a lot of recapping. I'm looking forward to the end of the year, because obviously there's just so much I've learned from my first year in the main event, and I feel like I've really not only stepped up as a player, but man, it's exciting because there's so much. It's a short period. I'm competing. I like where I'm at. I like where my team's headed, and on top of that, I feel I'm so excited to see what I've missed on, what I hit on, and what I have, my strengths and weaknesses, and try to really dive into that. And so, but yeah, I know it's a completely off topic thing because that's what we do here, but it's also the All-Star break. So we're probably talking more fantasy baseball relevant stuff than the average podcast right now. So people will take the rambling, I guess, at this point. But yeah, the second half approach really does vary team to team, league to league. It's really you really got to know your league, your scoring, your format, and really dive in, take the time to really take a look here.
And it's like you're going more overall. Like Ben Titt on last week's show was talking about he's just going for his leagues. He's like in like 7th or 8th, and so that's a whole different approach to what's going on.
I'm just afraid to shift completely. That's the thing. I've never shifted completely into one way or the other because well, I'm almost wondering, am I too balanced? Am I playing too balanced? Am I not going for it too much on one side?
That kind of leads to my next question for you, though, because you kind of mentioned a few things earlier, like playing safe. I got my guys on my bench and all this stuff. Like, we know the robot Phil Dussault's done it. We've seen many guys do it, like Guilds does it and others. There's a certain point now where you're okay dropping some rather big names because you're okay in a category, but you need to use that roster spot to maybe stream more, or because you mentioned wanting to stream a handful of guys each week for runs or something. Well, that's going to come at the cost of like a regular player at some point in time.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and obviously it's team by team when you're going to do your numbers and all that stuff. But when do you like just foresee going, okay, it's cool to drop a guy that you wouldn't see on a waiver wire very often?
I think it's honestly
like now.
I'd say now. I would say now. Like Woodruff was a very, 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 like, after I've held him so long, and I still strongly consider cutting him this week. I cut Kyle Wright instead, but
that's the right move for now.
Oh, I think so, but I think they were both cuttable, and honestly, I think Woodruff was cuttable a long time ago. I think it was one of those things.
Well, he was definitely cuttable a long time ago. If you think he is now,
yeah. Well, the thing was, the reason, and when I talk to people, they ask, why did I hold? Because it's a legitimate question. Why did I hold?
Well, then you're in the conundrum of, I held him this long, I have to hold him now.
No, see, I don't feel that way, and I think that's where I've matured, so to speak, as a player, because I'll never mature as an adult. That's not happening. But as a player,
we don't want you to.
So as a player, I don't buy into the whole, well, I already have them, so I might as well keep them. No, I'm looking at like what am I going to do with? I look at it like, what am I going to do with this roster spot? I don't care if someone else picks him up and gets him for a month, because if in the next 4 weeks that he's not pitching for me, I find something usable or I'm able to stream those stats I need, it was a win for me at the end of the day. But I haven't had a point where it's like I've gotten to such a tight crunch of like, who should I drop? I can't find anybody to drop. I've always had someone to drop, and I've just been turning and burning so many other roster spots that Woodruff was just always an auto stash because I never had. He was my only stash for a while too. But now it's like, Logan Allen was sent down. I think he'll be up sooner than later. Obviously, Royce Lewis went down. I'm holding on to him for now, and those guys are also cuttable too. But I think it goes back. I think Royce is more cuttable than the pitchers. Logan Allen, I would hold on to. Yep, but Royce was coming around, showing that signs of life, finally flashing the skills. I was like, I'm not gonna. And Zach mentioned it on his podcast that the cost to reacquire them, I don't have that FAAB.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I also have to start paying attention to who needs what in my league. I think, was it Greg? I think it's I haven't looked at this. I purposely haven't even looked at the NFBC tab since like Saturday, I think. Just like I'm taking a break. But I think it's Jewett. Jewett's creeping into third. I think he's in third place and he's pushing. And so I looked at his stats and I'm like, he needs pitching. So Woodruff, if I drop him, I guarantee you he would go after him.
There's a good point.
So now you have to start thinking, sure, I can go out and take a shot on this guy, but is a shot on this guy that might not even crack my starting lineup more than once worth giving a potential piece to helping another team gain points on me? So now you're playing this. There's a mix of playing keep away and also trying to, so there's a weird balance there. Like I don't want to drop a closer spec because I know the guy in second needs saves and I can use them too. But if I drop a closer spec and the spec actually hits and that guy gets them for $1 or $2 because he decided to get on the spec while it was cheap, then I screwed myself doubly. So it's like not only did I lose points that I need, but now I gave them to somebody else who needs them probably as much, if not more than me. So there's a sense of you got to understand what the teams around you need, and you got to play that game of, well, I can sacrifice my Jake Irvin, who I have this weird infatuation for. I can sacrifice adding him and hold on to a player that I think will either be more valuable to me rest of season or be in terms of someone I can insert, or he'll be more valuable to me the rest of the season just because I'm keeping away another valuable piece from someone else who really needs them. So that's where it comes into like, there's different ways to perceive value, and people just always think about how can I get more value from these free agents onto my roster. Well, sometimes the move is to not make moves. Just keep the guy on your bench and stop another team that needs them from getting them. You're playing
3D chess with this one.
Dude,
it's true. It's true. That's part of the deal, man. It's deeper than just it's just looking at what you need to add drop for the week.
This is when we give credit to guys like as much as we hate Wax, it's Zach is his pod is really useful because this stuff isn't like it's self-taught.
I loved having him on the show a couple weeks ago.
I know he was a great replacement. But it's one of those things where it's like, hey, I listen to Rob's podcast. I listen to the Launch Angle guys. I listen to like all the FTN. These are the guys that like I really try to dive into this niche and listen to when they have high stakes players on that normally don't come on to other pods. Like they've been doing over the last couple of years. And you start listening to these guys and you just start taking a little bit from, almost like when I started becoming an analyst. I started taking a little bit from this guy, a little bit from that guy. I like this. I don't really like that idea. I like this. Like, boom, I have my own style. That's why I feel like I've done this year with the main. I've taken a little bit, like I've been trying to be a little bit more cutthroat, like Phil does. I try to think ahead and look at someone I'm trying to think who, like someone I know Rob likes looking at schedules ahead of time. Rob, not so Silver probably does too, but I'm talking about Deadpool. Yeah, DPH. I was saying Deadpool hitter. So Rob, I know Rob is really big on schedule, looking ahead at 1 to 2 weeks of schedule. I'm like, so am I, but like that's one of those things where it's like, cool. A little bit from that, and it's like, so I'm sitting here just pulling from all these guys that have found success, and how can I do it too, or how can I do it better, or how can I do it my own way that I think is better, and that's how I kind of formulated. And that's why you're saying I'm playing 3D chess, but it's because behind the scenes, before I even jumped into the main event, I spent the last 2 years listening to all these guys talk, listening to all these guys make mistakes, try not to make my own mistakes or make the same ones, try to learn from them and try to kind of create my own style. And I think that this was obviously the first year of me doing this, and it's so far so good, but I can't say it's obviously there's still a lot of season left. I can't sit there and be like, oh, it worked. I still have to bring it home. But at the end of the day, even to be here right now, obviously I did something right. So I'm looking at it like, I gotta keep building on what I learned, keep listening to these people, pretend like I'm not listening to them, because it's fun to like, I don't want to give anybody credit. No, I'm kidding. But at the end of the day, it's there's so much, like if you listen to these pods and just try to take it all in and then just try to take it and then put your own spin on it and then obviously add your own set of skills to it, it kind of just hopefully comes together, and but like I mentioned, at the end of the day, I still have so much to reflect on and learn from, because I made a lot of mistakes, just a lot's going right, but a lot went wrong, I mean, it is what it is. It's gonna gonna happen. But anyway, sorry. I know I keep saying I shouldn't even say sorry. I don't know why I feel bad. I shouldn't feel bad. You get me on here, you know I'm gonna ramble about random BS.
I tee you up and we roll. So we'll see how it goes. Obviously, we'll have you on more throughout the season, so we'll kind of see how the ups and downs of all your streaming goes. And usually it goes pretty darn well. So I'm looking forward to that.
Except for Christopher Morel. I'm never gonna live that down.
I wasn't gonna bring it up. I wasn't gonna bring it up.
I can't stop. It's like a bad relationship that just like the one that got away, you know.
Well, you might have some streaming options coming up because Lou Bob was in the home run derby, tweaked his calf after round 1, still played in round 2. He did okay, but you could tell he wasn't full Lou Bob in there. They're saying he's fine. The MRI, they took an MRI. They're saying he's fine. We'll see, obviously, with Luis Robert, who's having a monster season. Really good stuff there. I would expect him back on Friday. At the same time, this could be one of those lingering things that becomes pesky and a pain on the butt. So you can't make moves now if you're in the NFBC, but how are you approaching this Luis Robert situation?
Well, I guess Clint Frazier would be next up again. Like he'd be called up, I would think. That's like that's the one guy that comes to mind that I know was like recently.
What do we think about Oscar Colas? Because he really hasn't got it going yet. Is this guy like? I know we were going to talk about him on FAAB probably, but let's just talk about him now. Like this guy, it's the talent is ridiculous in the minors. He just cannot get it going in the bigs.
In his defense, he only had a whole 1 week back up, and
I demand immediate satisfaction.
No, I know. Well, the problem is these pitchers. It's like the rookie pitchers came up and gave us so much of it that like guys like Colas, guys like Mervis haven't been able to. They weren't really given they weren't allowed to struggle. You know, that's not fair to them. I bet you Mervis and Colas are gonna be afterthoughts. They're gonna be next year's Jared Duran type of guys. Like they're going real late But yeah, anyway, so it's like I'm really looking forward to that stuff. Like I'm looking forward to I can't wait.
Looking at Colas still had 3. He's played safely in 3 or 6 games, no barrels, with a 50% hard hit rate. The thing that concerns me with him, O swing at 53.5%, overall contact, not just O swing, 71%, and a 17% swinging strike. That scares me a lot, even in a 1 week sample.
Absolutely, and considering that on the year he's like the numbers you said weren't much better. Like he wasn't as aggressive in chasing pitches out of the zone. I think there's some excitement there for Colas. I mean, overall in the year, even with that bad stretch, you're still looking at a 73% contact rate. Not great, but whatever. Zone contact is actually close to league average. So at least he's making, he just swings a ton. His swing rate is 52.5%. League average is 47.1%. So Colas is a guy that's a pretty aggressive swinger, willingness to chase. Pitchers are taking advantage of it. And he has some swing and miss in the zone. I just think that sometimes he just needs time to adjust. And I think this could be one of those things where Colas could be a decent September guy, maybe get some hype heading into the next year type of thing because of it. But yeah, I'm not overly optimistic. I know we saw him kind of get hot late, right before he got called up in the minors. So at the end of the day, though, Colas, a little bit of power, a little bit of speed. You're right. As long as he's chasing the way he's chasing, that contact is, like you mentioned, the barrels aren't going to really be there because he won't have it. It's hard to barrel a ball outside the zone. It's just so if he has that much swing and miss in the zone, and Colas continues to chase and swing and miss outside the zone as well, and all that, it's going to be weaker contact. It's not going to lead to fantasy production. Maybe he steals more bases than he hits home runs type of thing the rest of the year. But I don't know. I'm not overly optimistic on him considering. But back to Lou Bob. Even if Lou Bob was health, even if he's back, maybe the calf lingers his running initially. I know he was kind of getting going on the base paths a little bit. Yep. So that would be the only thing about Robert I'd be concerned about, because I don't think the power shouldn't be too much of an issue. If he's playing, I think he'll hit for power. But he was, again, the stolen bases were kind of coming around. And that's kind of the thing that's was the difference maker. Like we knew the power was there, but now he was putting it all together, and it was like, cool, we're getting the full breakout, and then he decides to hurt his calf.
Hurt his calf.
Yeah, he had
home run derby.
He had 6 of his 8 steals the last 2 months. Like March, April, and May, he had 2 combined steals, and then the last 2 months he had 4 and 2. So yeah, 6 of his 8. So yeah, like I said, the stolen bases were coming around. He's been hitting for power ridiculously. Oh, sorry, he had 2. I act like July's over. He's had 2 stolen bases this month in just 36 plate appearances. So he started running last month in June, and it's carried over into July. But that calf will keep Lou Bob from probably stealing initially.
For sure.
So if he's healthy and hitting home runs, no one's gonna get mad. It's just a matter of, does the calf tweak his mechanics? Does it stop him from being able to put that weight into his legs? Is it like just one of those things where we saw last year? Was it the shoulder? I'm trying to remember what was at the end of the year where or the wrist. He just played through it and it was awful and was like platooning because he was unhealthy, but they wouldn't put him on the IL, so they played him like every third day. I'm trying to remember what it was that way ended last year. I'm just afraid of something like that.
He almost went like, it felt like, it was like 6 days and then he'd play, then he'd get hurt again. Then
it was like a weak side platoon. It was the weirdest thing.
It was horrible.
But I don't think they'll treat him like that again. But my point is that I guess what I'm getting at is that he'll play hurt. Luis Robert will play hurt. It's just one of those things where I'm afraid if he plays hurt, does it make it worse? Does it ruin his mechanics? Does it little things that we can't really quantify yet or put in numbers? And obviously, it's just I'm just throwing things out there of what could go wrong if he tries to play through a calf injury. And we all know how calves can easily be re-aggravated. Maybe that's Josh Donaldson bias, though, because I feel like I've had some Josh Donaldson. I think the Josh Donaldson shares creep into my brain, and I've had a few over the years where he's doing so good, and there's another calf injury. Oh, look, it's the other calf.
Or it could be the Royce Lewis situation. It's not even the calf. It's just like every time he's doing good, and he's hurt again.
Obliques are not fair. Obliques
they're not. Count. There's a ridiculous amount of obliques. I'm telling you, people, I don't even know if I have an oblique. So, like, they should stop working out so much.
I just found one. I just found one the other day. Only one.
Only one. Gotcha.
The other one, I'm still searching for it.
Yeah, fair enough. I just want to ask real quick, because you mentioned Matt Mervis, and we were going to talk about stashing season pretty soon. We do our FAAB recaps. Since Mervis went back down, like, I was seeing buzz that he was playing well, and I looked at his stats. He's hitting 264, 3 home runs. Nothing too, like, flashy for me. 946 OPS is good. He's walking over 16%, striking out about 21%. So I like the plate discipline overall. And when you look at the Cubs, it's like, I like Trey Mancini with the best of them. But let's be real. Like, how often are we going to keep Matt Mervis in the minors when you got this young team with Morel and everybody else doing things? Like, can't you? My point is Mervis a dude to say you are looking for power that you'd be willing to start stashing pretty soon?
Oh yeah, he was actually in consideration. I'm just so tight on stashes. I didn't want to do. I never thought Mervis was going to be like. I thought he'd be good. I really did. I didn't think he would struggle this much when he came up. But I don't know if he's more than a 3-category guy right now. I do think that the power can be helpful. I think we should keep our expectations in check if we learned anything else. It's just one of those things where it's hard for me to think that for him to see Mervis be this consistently solid in AAA and it not carry over, really surprising to me. But yeah, he's definitely in the stash conversation without a doubt. He's fringe in 12s, 15s, easy stash, I would think. Just because, like, if I had the stash spot, I would. Because Jared Young, he's been awful while he's been up. He's batting 200 with a 27% strikeout rate.
I'd rather see Matt Mervis up there all day over Young. I don't understand that at all.
Young, he's a 28-year-old making second time he made his debut in the last year played 60 games with the Cubs. So this is his longest run at the major league level. But strikeouts are an issue. There's some power there, but 28 years old, he's a strong side platoon bat, so he's not even getting full-time run. Mervis could easily take that back over. I think we see Mervis back up early August after the trade deadline, honestly. But it's one of those things where if you need some power at the corner infield spot, I just think maybe we should scale back. Temper is a better word. I was going to say scale back. Same idea, though. Temper expectations for Mervis. I think Mervis can be like, I think this year we could probably see, like, you remember good Trey Mancini? I feel like Mervis can be good Trey Mancini.
I'm with you there. Like hit like 240, hit another like 10 to 15 home runs in the second half.
Oh, I'm saying even if I'm thinking like back when he was hitting like I think we used to see what's his face.
He used to like 270-ish.
Yeah. I think we could see him maybe not be too aggressive. We can see closer to like the 255 and 21 season we saw out of 2021 out of Mancini. I feel like we can see that type of pacing, not necessarily 21 home runs the rest of the season, but I think if he came up, if Mervis came up and hit 250-ish and was like on that 21 pace home run, like nothing out over the top, but something that was just solid, 7 home runs a month or something like that. Probably more than 21. That'd be a lot more than 21. But you get my point. Like, I think he could be just. I guess what I'm getting at is I can see a path where Mervis is just a solid, safe, more of a high floor than a ceiling play. So power might not be as good as we expect from Mervis, but I can see him just being that kind of quality, just like set and forget, kind of boring, like the Gene Segura of corner infield type of thing.
That's fair. That's just why I wanted to bring Mervis up, because when we're talking stash, you think about all these guys that flailed out early that are on the waiver wire you can get for cheap. This is the time to start looking at some of these guys. The other news from All-Star Week here, Jordan Romano. Apparently, he warmed up in the bullpen, felt a tweak in his back, still came in to pitch, throw 5 pitches, gave a flyout, left the game with a back injury. Dusty Baker doing Dusty Baker things. Welcome, Toronto. This is my still a horror story from 2002. So the question I have here, obviously, we'll see how it goes, but I hate back injuries like no one else's business. Romano's been the man. He's been tied for the league lead in saves with 26 so far this year. Ratios have been great. Strikeouts have been great. Next man up's an interesting situation because you have like Swanson's been pretty good. You have Yimi Garcia got a save this past week. The dude I'm looking at, though, is Nate Pearson. That's me personally. Pearson's a dude that I drafted in a ton of 50s and DCs for this exact reason. Thinking either Romano either loses the job, gets traded. Who knows what the Jays were going to do this year. I wanted Pearson for the back end of this bullpen. That's who I would be speculating on this weekend. Honestly, we'll see 3 games, and we'll see how they operate if Romano is out. How would you be approaching this Toronto Blue Jays situation?
I'm glad we get to wait and see, to be completely honest. Like, that was like the big thing is like, okay, we get to wait and see a little bit. But dude, Pearson's been throwing absolute like just crazy velos up again now, and he always has that stuff. He's always had the stuff to be a dominant relief pitcher. I think he should be the cheaper of all these options if we don't get a save op this weekend. I think that's a good thing about Pearson is that he would be the cheapest of the names you mentioned. But at the end of the day, man, it's his high leverage numbers are actually really solid. Like, it's funny because if you go look at if you actually look at the splits for Pearson on Fangraphs, you can see his high leverage, medium leverage, low leverage, and his best xFIP is 2.4 in high leverage compared to 6.57 in medium leverage and 4.38 in low leverage. His K per 9 is 12.6. Sorry, let's do K minus walk. K minus walk is 41.2% in high leverage compared to 6.7% in medium and 18.1% for low. So what I'm getting at is Pearson has thrived so far, and it's a small sample because I'm sure I guess let me see how many innings, but it's very small. It doesn't really matter because it's a small sample regardless. Oh yeah, 5, 6, yeah, very very small, 5, 6, 20 innings. So yeah, it's been very very small samples. But the point is that I've just noticed apparently he's been thriving in these high leverage situations. So there could be nothing to it. It could just be noise. Or maybe he, as a starter, you come into a game, he's transitioning from a starter to a relief pitcher. Maybe there's just a little something to the competitiveness of having to be like in that type of role. I don't know. I can't speak to that. But
also, guys like Pearson, they can just throw their gas for an inning now instead of having to stretch it out for 5, 6 innings, which some guys just can't do. So it makes more sense to be a back end arm. So yeah, but I'm curious of the Pearson
very, very
situation.
small sample. That's why I wanted to emphasize that it's a very small sample, but it was intriguing to see the splits and realize, Pearson has some really interesting splits in high leverage versus low and medium, but we're talking one bad inning in either direction, and suddenly all those numbers could flip because that's how little overall his sample of the season has been rather small, 31 innings as a whole this year. So, but yeah, I do like him a lot. I think there's a lot of upside there, and I think he's a fun play, even if he doesn't get the save. Say Swanson gets the save, Swanson's gonna be the guy. Then people are gonna go targeting him for FAAB. Maybe you throw a buck on Pearson just in case Pearson because at this point it could just be a mix and match whoever's give or take maybe hot arm, whoever they feel like it. So Pearson would still be a guy that you grab for a buck just to see where it goes, type of thing.
I'm with you there. Before we do the FAAB recap of the week, you are the playing time guy. I know it's kind of our breather for the All-Star break, but in your work, like maybe the last week or so, has there been any standouts like in change of playing time or something that might be fantasy relevant going into the second half?
I meant to look at this one actually. I didn't have time today. I know Ryan Remillard has been leading off for the
White Sox.
His name is Ryan, right? I know the last name is Remillard or Zach Remillard, not Ryan. It's Rami. It's Roman Ramirez.
I just know Remillard.
Remillard. Well, because I actually work with a Ryan Remillard, I think is what it is. So the last name Remillard. So he's playing every day. Let off 2 straight. One's first lefty, one's first righty heading into the week. Fun little power speed combination. He was older for the level, so that was a fun name that like people. I know he was added in some mains. So he's 29 now. So he just turned 29. Happy birthday, buddy. He turned 29. Well, by just like earlier this year, like 4 months ago, but close enough. A little bit of pop, mostly for speed though. Some decent plate approach, some high BABIP right now. But Remillard's the guy that I would bank on the stolen bases, and I guess as long as he's hitting first, you get some stolen bases out of him and some runs. Would have been a great target for me to get for runs, obviously. but yeah, he's the guy that's trending up right now, and especially with how that team's looking like they're gonna. I think they came out and said the White Sox pretty much came out and said that, hey, if your name isn't Eloy Jimenez, Andrew Vaughn, Luis Robert, and Cease, you're pretty much available via trade.
Yep.
So that playing time is not going anywhere. But that goes back into maybe we start looking into Lenine Sosa, get him back on your roster.
So there you go.
So that's where it's like you gotta start making these plans. And now I'm putting my own I probably shouldn't have said that. I probably should have said I'll get Lenine Sosa, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'm not gonna lie, man. I've kept a lot of stuff close to my chest on purpose. I'm not. It is what it is. I'm not here to. I put it in my writing. Like if people are on the Patreon, they do. I will write. I put all that stuff in the write ups for Patreon, but I don't.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
weigh
one. That's
anymore.
what we do with our Patreons. We don't hide what we're doing.
I can't. I mean, you're at that point. People are paying for them. Well, I put it because I like to put it out as information. Like, hey, I'll write. Remolard's been leading off. This team's looking to make a lot of trades. The next time I'll be like, keep an eye on Lenine Sosa and so and so. Like, I put the names out there for you to make your own judgment on, type of thing. That's my goal is to be helpful in terms of like, not necessarily. I don't want to tell you what to do. I don't like telling people what to do. I like to present the information and the stats and everything else, and you make your own determination. It's almost like I want to teach them how to fish, not just give them the dinner, like the whole saying, whatever. You get the saying. Another name I'm watching for playing time is Dominic Canzone. That's kind of an obvious one. He didn't start against a righty to finish off the week, so you gotta watch that. He is a lefty bat though, big power numbers in the minors, but it's a crowded outfield. We'll see where that goes with him in terms of playing time, but just a name to watch, see where the playing time goes, not necessarily up or down. I'm just scrolling through here now because obviously I'm not prepared because I'm a really terrible co-host. The Rangers, Travis Jankowski, he's been playing against most right-handers, 4 out of the last 5. There's a lot of speed and surprisingly amount of like a little bit of pop to go with it. It's not empty. If you need stolen bases, and he's on one of the best teams in baseball, even though he's not playing full time, he's playing enough to give you meaningful stolen base numbers and meaningful numbers as a whole on that team for the Rangers. So Travis Jankowski, I didn't think I'd be saying his name or something about bingo card or something Zach likes to say. I don't know.
Yeah, I did think he'd be on the bingo card this week.
That one, something about bingo cards. I know Zach likes the whole bingo card saying. Those are the big names. Those are some of the bigger names. I'm sure there's others I'm missing, but like I said, I'm doing this on the fly just to give names here. Those were 3.
The Jankowski one's a good call because in DFS I've noticed that over the last few weeks he's like $2,600, hitting like 7th every day, but he's producing on, like you said, one of the best offenses in baseball. So that kind of goes back to almost full circle now. When you instead of getting like a Tony Kemp on the A's leading off, as bad as it sounds, getting a 7th hole hitter for the Rangers might get you more runs scored than Tony Kemp. So that's kind of like where you start to analyze who you're picking up type story.
Absolutely. That's why I was like, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't. The Tony Kemp thing really annoys me because it frustrates me because he checks all the boxes. Like, I want a guy who has playing time, check. I want a guy who has a chance for runs, check, because he's batting top 3 in the lineup. Like, he's the check again. And it's like, I
want a guy who plays on a good team, X.
Oh, well, sorry, 3 out of 4. You're right, isn't it? But that's the problem. Name me a good team that has a top 3 hitter available on the waiver wire.
15 teamers, you don't. It was like the way to do it is a couple weeks ago. It's like, okay, the Tigers played like 3 in Texas and 4 in Colorado. Okay, give me all the Matt Vierling, all the Kerry Carpenter, all the Andy Ibanez. Like give me all those guys. So that might be the other approach. Okay, who's in Great American this week? Who's in Texas this week? Who's like, and just say screw it. I'm taking somebody from those rosters, and then we're just going to churn and burn the entire rest of the way.
That's what goes back into the stuff I'm scraping. I'm trying to get it done before
looking at the
Friday.
schedule ahead. Yeah,
I'm getting the rest of the schedule. I'm scraping the rest of the schedule for every single week, I'm not like week individual matchups. I'm literally like week 17 here. They have this team has 6 games. This is who they're facing, and if they are a top 10 park factor team or not. I don't know. I picked 10 because I feel like top 10 is always a favorable thing. So it's really for hitter stuff. I'm just because again, that's my strength, the streaming hitter. So it's like it's just another piece of the puzzle. Oh, this team has 2 7-game weeks out of 3 coming up, and 2 of those series, one's in Coors, one's in Cincinnati. I want those players. If I can get them 2 weeks ahead of time, that's great. And then I know I'm holding on to them. Those aren't just, and right now, if I can get a player for $2 or $3 that I actually have plans for utilizing for 2 out of 3 weeks, that's a huge chunk of the remaining season. Bingo. So again, it goes back to 3D chess. If you want to compete with the best, you got to really try to outthink them, outplay the best. And I feel like I'm finally at that, like I'm right now where I'm at is I feel very confident that I'm putting myself in a position to compete, and that's and stay there. And that's kind of like, this is where I'm at.
I'd rather go that approach, looking ahead and for a couple bucks, and if even 50% of those hit, I'm pretty pumped on the situation.
Give me 20% of those hitting. Honestly,
that's what I'm saying. Like I'm that's what I like. So let's talk about. Let's recap FAAB now. Let's start talking Week 15 FAAB. And it wasn't a big week. We'll do our moves pretty soon because, like I said, I was pretty much just pure specking this week because I didn't have the funds, and B, there wasn't a ton that I had to have, or if I tried to get them, I didn't have the funds, as we said. So I'll bring up the NFBC OC 12 teamers. Kurland will probably reference the 15s from time to time because I do like seeing the differences there. And I'll continue to mention it every single show because he needs to get more love out there. Is Rob McCabe at Slee Rat Nation on Twitter. Every FAAB period does cool recaps on like efficiency of the main ads of the week and like monies that available. And then obviously Zach does his stuff and some other guys do stuff too. So it's good stuff. But the top added player this week, and it made a ton of sense, especially in 12. I don't know how available he was already in 15, but Tarik Skubal was added in 192 leagues as high as 177, as low as $1. He was available in 2 of my 3 OCs. I did not get him any place. I wanted to. I really did. But I tried specking on him. I couldn't because he wasn't available because he had NFBC rules. If he's not drafted, you can't add a guy until he actually pitches. So I couldn't add him ahead of time. Skubal has been good so far. 2 outings, 4 innings in each outing. Still no runs allowed, 2 total hits, 11 strikeouts. They're going to keep babying him along for good reasons. But at this point of the year, if he can give me 4 shutout innings with 5+ Ks every time out, I'm taking that as much as you want wins. Were you in on the Skubal opportunities? Was he available in your league? How'd that go for you?
Oh, he was available. 1, I didn't have the funds. 2, I was not interested because it's the babying him. I can't afford to take on a guy that, like, we're talking about.
So you need wins, is what you're saying. You have to get wins.
I was telling you how wins, like ratio help isn't what I need right now. K help isn't what I need right now. I need wins. He's not getting me wins on that team, pitching 4 to 5 innings on a good day with Detroit as his back with that offense. So I don't see them. When is he going to start? He'll start pitching 5 innings probably sooner than later. But even then, one little setback, he can be shut down for the rest of the year because they're not going to push him. I can see them skipping a start down the stretch. Like, there's a lot of question marks here. I do believe that I do buy into the talent of Skubal. I do buy into the changes. The velo's up huge. And that's the thing. Projections really like him, but projections are probably not even adding in the changes yet. You know what I mean? So there's lots to like here for Skubal, but we haven't seen him go through 3 times through a lineup yet. We don't know how he's going to do when a team sees him multiple times or 3 times through. How many games is he really going to pitch? At least 5. How many of those games is he going to have a chance to win? I think he's a helpful piece. I just don't know if he's going to be as helpful as people hope. I know that it's going to be good. I think there'll be solid quality innings for the most part. So I think that alone has value. But this is where it's like you don't just go after the guy that's the best guy. Sometimes he was the best pitcher available, but I couldn't fit him onto my teams, like considering what I needed right now.
That's fair. That's why, and that's a definitely team dependent thing. I just needed like strikeouts and ratios. I was wanted to take the bullet for on that one.
So, for instance, he might have 2 start weeks for rest of season.
And that's a great point. Going down the stretch here, a lot of guys won't, and I'll say this also with so many injuries and everything 83. Right now, there's gonna be a ton of baby. Like you mentioned, Yuri Perez. So many of these young pitchers, their innings are gonna start. All of them, not just Yuri. They're all gonna start getting. Not all of them. There's a group that could probably get to like 160. So that'll be fine. But a majority, like even our Brian Wu's, our Bryce Millers, like all these kind of guys are gonna get slowed down.
And so that's why I'm looking at him and I'm like, how many times can I really take on a 4 to 5 5 innings? If he's just giving me 5, that's great.
And they got a lot for a win. They got a lot of pitchers coming back. They might just go 6-man with all the guys coming off. Like you had Manning, Skubal, Fido, Erod, all coming off the IL about the same time.
Erod's getting dealt though. Erod will be dealt.
That could change.
I don't see that being too much of an issue, but I don't know. Maybe I'm being too pessimistic in projecting the innings. I'm afraid of how they're going to baby him all the way to the stretch, and that's the only thing that's my only concern. I'm not doubting the skills. That's why I was like, if you need ratios and Ks, I get it. Like it's a great move, probably. I say probably because I don't know what to expect with how they're going to utilize him. Maybe they'll give him a little bit of run now, and maybe they'll shut him down closer to the end of the year. So whatever, but I just can't. I couldn't do it, man. Especially because I have a hard time. Like I want some volume now too. I need to start attacking volume more than ever in terms of like I need 2-start guys. I need guys that are going to be able to get me wins. I don't think Skubal is going to get you the chance for many wins, and so you're pigeonholing yourself into a 3-category guy at best for the rest of the season here. Which again, those 3 categories matter. So it really is team dependent, but. How many like what if he's only pitching 4 innings for the next 3 weeks? That's 3, so you're getting 12 innings out of a guy. Like
no, it's very
tough because I feel like I can get the same out of a relief pitcher at that point.
Well, and that's a discussion we've had and I've had on many shows. Is like I've started stashing in deeper formats some of the better like 7th, 8th inning arms, hoping for 3 to 4 innings a week and strikeouts, and maybe they sneak out. They probably have a better chance of getting a win than Skubal is what you're saying. So I'm
in the short term. Yeah, I want to emphasize I'm talking like next 2 to 3 weeks, which at this point 2 to 3 weeks is like almost a third of the season.
Yeah, we're getting close to the halfway mark of the season at that point in time.
Yeah, that's why. So I'm like, that's why I'm very apprehensive. And so although I like him, I'm not gonna sit here and poo-poo the ad. I just couldn't, for my specific team needs and the way I was looking at my team, I'm like, it just didn't fit.
This is why I love having these conversations with you, Kurland.
Sometimes I'm helpful. I like to play the idiot, play the fool. I play it very well because I'm not really playing.
It's great when shows don't agree on everything. So it's good to have all the sides of the picture pointed out.
I'm pretty sure I just disagreed with, I don't know, every single person who added them. So there you go.
King turned heel.
I love it.
Let's talk about a guy that you picked up. Colton Cowser picked up in 157 OCs, which is funny because that means he can get picked up everywhere. So think about that one real quick, folks. A max of 202, as low as 1. OCs are freaking awesome. I tell you what, there's no chance I was spending over like $15 on him. But it's a weird profile. Like the minor league stats, pretty darn awesome. 330, 10 homers, he had 21 total extra base hits, 54 runs, 40 RBIs, 7 steals. 19% walk, 23% K. He's carried that walk rate over 19% in his first 6 games. He got 3 total hits. He scored 6 runs, but it's the 3 total hits parts. He's not like lighting the world on fire. He's almost like, I've watched him a lot through DFS because he was like free for like the first 3 days, and he walks enough and scores runs where he scored enough points in DFS where it's great. But I'm watching him on my game feed on my phone, and he just takes pitches and takes pitches and takes pitches. And there's a point where you're like, dude, swing the freaking bat. Let's go. Like, we need you to do something. So you mentioned it earlier, and we'll recap our guys later, but you can talk about him now if you'd like. You weren't really trying to get Cole Cowser. You got Cole Cowser. So what are your thoughts now that you're a Cole Cowser manager?
I'm just as like meh about it as before. He's not even an auto start for me. I looked at it like this. I'm like, okay, this is one of the few guys that, he called up. He has very similar upside to just about any other prospect getting called up right now in terms of like a little bit of pop, a little bit of speed. How much different was he than Westberg or guys like that? Like, I'm not saying he was like that next tier. He's no McLean. He's no Ellie. He's the lower end guys in terms of what's left. But I thought he had enough of a skill set to be a helpful contributor to fantasy purposes. You mentioned it. He barely swings the bat. 37.2% swing rate for Cowser. And it's very similar. It reminds me a lot of what's his face, the new leadoff hitter for them now, Gunnar Henderson. It's just a very similar, like, okay, come on, swing the bat a little bit, but only a 9.5% strikeout rate so far. Again, you mentioned it, very small sample, but there's not a lot of swing and miss in terms of the swing strike rate. There's not only 20% O swing so far. I'm sure there's gonna be an adjustment period, but he's batting 6th or 7th, playing every day. He should, at the very least, he should be a strong side platoon, so he's not gonna be affected by the Baltimore is what they call it now in Baltimore. He's not going to be as affected by Baltimore as a lefty hitter. So I'm, and then of course including the games where he gets to go play over in New York and other places that are a little more lefty friendly as well. I think that there's a little, and there's fantasy juice there. Why not put I wasn't going to break the bank for him again. I was down to like $80-something, but I'm like, I'm going to go ahead and throw in a $12 bid. I'm like, if I get him for that price, I'm going to be ecstatic because that's a huge upside play considering what I thought I could get. I didn't think I'd be able to spend $12 the rest of the year and get somebody like this. I didn't think I thought Cowser would at least bring $20 to $40 for most people. And in main events, it was a max of 225 and a min of 4. So very similar max min to your OCs. But my $12 bid was like almost, I think, within the bottom 15 of bids. I'd say like there was a couple triple digit bids, but most like 89. There's a lot of I think 30 to 50. I think his average bid, I think Rob D, going back to Rob D Pietro pointed, I think it was like 36ish, which is kind of a good amount in 15s right now. Was his main event average bid. So Cowser overall, I wasn't going to ever get there on him. I was with you. I was like, if I'll take him if he's that cheap, because I think there's enough juice there to justify spending. Especially
that offense. That offense is going to put up a lot of runs. So I'll take my chances there.
And I'm sorry, but I know Hicks is performing, but I don't think Hicks is going to be an issue. I know Ryan O'Hearn's performing, but I have a hard time buying it after all the years of mediocrity from Ryan O'Hearn. I think it's a lot of fun to root for these random rejects that just got a secondary push and boost in playing time and production for this team. But at the end of the day, I know Hearn's a DH, so it's more of a Mountcastle issue than anything, or DH first base. But at the end of the day, Cowser, like you said, like I'm not like, oh my God, I got him. I'm like, cool, I got him. Like this wasn't expected, and I think there's some juice there. I'd be if put it this way, I mean, if you have a 5 outfield league and you need somebody with that type of upside, I would want him as an upside play, absolutely, even in a 12-teamer. But that's what kind of like it has to be a 5 outfielder league. He's not like 12-team 3 outfield for me yet, so it's more 12-team 5 outfielders and deeper is where you should be rostering Cowser, and I think there's enough juice. And like you mentioned, that offense and batting 6th, 7th isn't a bad spot in that lineup either. Like it goes back to Jankowski. I'd rather give me Colton Cowser all day over Tony Kemp. Because I might be losing one at bat a game, but I think it's gonna be better quality. Because you mentioned it, get on base, score me runs all day, please. Yes, I'll take that. I'll take that all day. That's all I need. That's all I need from you, Cowser.
Well, one of the outfielders I'd rather have had over Cowser is Mickey Moniak, who's picked up in 79 leagues, as high as 57, as low as $1. I've been a big Moniak fan. I've gotten feedback or kickback from I think you and others from time to time for my Moniak love. But since June 15th, hitting 323, 5 homers. He still strikes out a ton. Not going to deny that. The thing that's great now, because early on I could kind of listen to the kickback because the platoons with Taylor Ward and this, that, and the other. Well, there's a guy, Taylor Ward, is not playing well, period. And Mike Trout, bye-bye for at least a month. So there's going to be some – Moniak has slid right into center field. He is in there every day playing center field, and and he's hitting in the middle of the lineup a lot too, which just booms the situation there. So I'm a big Mickey Moniak fan. I was willing to rather have him than Colton Cowser. I still don't think I've got him in many places, but I do like Moniak quite a bit. For at least the time being, this is a definite, like a 3 to 4 week stream. Maybe longer. You never know, but a 3 to 4 week stream and see where it goes.
Yeah, I wish I got Moniak back. The week when the Angels played in Colorado, he was on my waterfalls, but I didn't prioritize him like I should have. But Moniak's just one of those things where it's like 30, almost a 32% strikeout rate on the year. Batting 308, that's great, but that's a 390 BABIP. I know he's a kind of a higher BABIP guy, but that's not happening. That's not sustaining. It's just there's just so much there. I don't understand how it's working. Like in terms of like I guess that when it comes back down to earth. But I mean, 16% barrel rate. So the hard hit rate isn't great. 33.3% is nothing special. But he's making such quality of contact that like who cares if not everything's hard hit. It's 16% barrel rate. That's impressive in its own. Right, but remember how you mentioned Colos's chase rate and swinging strike rate? Well, so if you look at Moniak, 20.6% swinging strike rate, 50.7% O swing, and league average for reference is 31.7%. So we're talking almost 20%, completely 20% above, worse than the average in chasing.
Are you talking about his whole season?
Yes, I'm looking at the whole season. I know he's improved. I know the strikeouts have come. At least last I looked, I thought the strikeouts have come down.
They are improving a little, like down to 30% now. Yes.
Oh, a whole 30%. So a whole 1.5%. But yes, so Moniak has. It's more like a whole 1.5%.
I just looked at his last 3 weeks when I gave you the good overall numbers. He still has a 54% O swing and a 21% swinging strike.
So he's making ridiculous moves. Moniak's just doing things it doesn't make sense how he's doing them with the underlying numbers. It's one of those things where you ride it out, and when it comes crashing down, but you mentioned it, 3 to 4 weeks. If that's all it is, that's all it is. Yep. So yeah, the pushback was never about I know the first round talent was the first overall talent at that.
Number 1 overall pick. Yep.
So the pedigree's there, playing time's there, skill set is there. You take a shot on Moniak, absolutely. I just don't think it's gonna last. I think it's gonna be a crash and burn situation, but who cares if it doesn't last? Ride it out until it does.
For sure. I know this next guy is a player both of us like a lot. Like if you look at any one of my draft and hold teams, probably on the roster, I have him in pretty much all 15s and some 12s. That's Garrett Cooper. The biggest thing with Coop is staying healthy. Right now he's healthy. Right now. He has picked up in 68 leagues this past week for as high as 19, for as low as $1 over the last month since June 9th. Hitting 314 with 6 home runs, 20 RBIs for Coop. He's producing like a man possessed, or at least, actually, I'm not going to say that. In the preseason, I've written about him, talked about him, you have, many other have. If you look at his numbers, when healthy, this is what he does. Like, he's a very good hitter. He just never plays a full season. Right now, all we care about is the time being. So this is a guy that should be rostered, in my opinion, in a lot of formats. The toughest thing with Coop compared to years past is he used to be first base and outfield eligible. Now he's just first base, which limits the overall appeal to him in 12s. 15s, still very huge. But what's your thoughts on Garrett Cooper?
I rode the early hot streak on Cooper, and I dropped him when he got injured, and then like he came back, and it was like
He's
weird.
he's the player you
the
do that
playing,
with, though. You drop
he's the
him,
playing
sure.
time. He was at playing time. Like he was like the playing time was trending down, but then like he started performing, so it's back up again. But if you look at the overall numbers, he's back to being Garrett Cooper. He's batting 260. He has 12 home runs. He has 43 RBIs in just 281 play appearances, which is kind of nice. So like we can actually get like if he actually just close to double that, we're looking at like a quiet 80 RBI season on because I guess it's because it's a rather surprising Marlins offense is what it is. His career high RBIs are 50 in a season, and those are seasons with 421 plate appearances and 469 plate appearances. That's how bad the Marlins have been. So he's almost going to have a career high RBI output in like half the amount of games. It's wild. Anyway, that's really half amount of play appearances. I mean, sorry, I just happened to notice I pulled his page up, but that can't be. I'm double checking. I don't believe. Yeah, 50. He's done it twice. 107 games, 119 games. Wow. He might break it by the end of next week. Anyway, so Coop is just such a solid, safe, steady producer. He, like you mentioned, the value's up and down with him as he goes, but he's okay. You want another? This is like another Matt Mervis type of player. Like, I feel like if Matt Mervis came up and did this, we shouldn't be surprised. So it goes back to this is like just expect if Matt Mervis can give us this is kind of okay. And
that's
and
a good comp.
Useful.
That's a really good comp, actually.
It goes back to like, well, this is very similar to like the useful Trey Mancini discussion. Like that's what I'm trying to get at. It's like just useful, not great, not bad, just usable. And I think Cooper
boring is beautiful at times.
Yes, and I think I have a golden baseball for those watching.
There you go.
I went to the Daytona Tutugas game and they were giving out. It was Harry Potter night, and so they gave out
beautiful
golden baseballs. It was cool. So I got like 4 of them. I'm gonna put them on the shelf that you can't see in the background because it's super dark.
Right by the casting couch. Perfect.
Yes. Where else would you put golden balls?
Sure. Fair enough. That's the After Dark podcast.
I mean, it is 1 o'clock my 12:30 my time.
CJ Abrams added in 65 leagues, as high as 35, as low as $1. And this is the guy I was really high on to start the season. Didn't have a lot of shares, but I love the potential of this player. It was tough goings, but he's starting to find his groove again. The reason I liked him early in the year, I was like, the Nats have no reason not to play him every day. Let the kid figure it out, or like sink or swim. And he's starting to swim now. Over the last 3 weeks, hitting 349 with 7 extra base hits, 1 home run, 8 stolen bases, 11 runs scored. This could be a guy that Kurland could use. Shortstop has been a position I get a lot of questions on throughout the week in the Discord. So do you, because you're in the Discord, but just in general, other questions. Shortstop, second base, middle infield is a very popular question that is asked. CJ Abrams is a good fit. And I think if you're looking for steals and maybe a little run support, maybe like a 270 average, like CJ could be your dude. So what's your thoughts on CJ Abrams?
To go with all that, Abrams finally got bumped back up to the leadoff spot too. It took a half a year, but he's batted leadoff 3 straight heading into the break. Luis Garcia taking the hit there, moving down to 8th, unfortunately, which likely changes when they make some trades here because I think he'll just bump. Remember at one point, I think in spring, they were even showing them top 2 in the lineup. I think Garcia probably gets back in that top 2 or 3 spot, depending on how Lane Thomas. Well, it depends on how Lane Thomas, where he gets moved or if he gets moved and all that. And then, of course, they have guys like Joey Meneses who suddenly found his power stroke. But so there's going to be a lot of openings at the top of the lineup, I think, for Luis Garcia to get back up there. But in the meantime, Abrams, I liked him, but not, I was never in on ADP, so I'm obviously missing out. It was just one of those things where I was like, is he going to get it going? Like, I know there's potential there, but and it took him what 2/3 of the year to finally like it took him like the last month from like, okay, cool, I'm going to show that I know how to play baseball again. And I get it. What prospect growth isn't linear. I understand. Blah blah blah. I didn't realize he was doing that bad against lefties. But I just pulled a 55 diversity plus against lefties with a 563 OPS. That's not good. But the righties he's fine. Anyway, yeah, it's one of those things where there's a little bit of pop, so he's not there, but the speed. It's nice to see him run, and it's the fact that he started running makes a difference there for Abrams. And now he's leading off too. So it goes back to playing time. You mentioned it. I could use him because I could use the runs, but it just took a little bit. Maybe he's just now finding his own. It's the 5 stolen bases in July. We're talking 8 games. He has 5 stolen bases. He had 9 total entering July. 5. So he's gonna probably double his stolen base total by the end of the month. Yeah. Compared to the first 3 months of the year. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, but why? What took him so long to figure it out and just start going? Or was it just lack of opportunity because of batting 9th? And
that's what I'm thinking. The opportunities is consistency on the base pass. He's probably more worried about not striking out and actually getting on base.
22.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I loved him in the preseason because he had the quote unquote what people hate to hear, great prospect pedigree, super young. on
I
a
get
team. Yeah, I get all checked. All boxes were checked, and he's starting to slowly show it.
I'm trying to remember why, because I remember being okay. Like, I wasn't against him. I think I had him ranked with consensus, but he wasn't a target of mine. So I can't say I was in on him. I'm not going to say I'm big. Oh, I was in on him. No, I wasn't, because if I was in on him, I'd have more shares. I like 1 or 2 on a DC, and that was because he was a fallback option. Because I forgot who I liked more, and it doesn't really matter because that's a whole other discussion. Because I'm looking forward to looking back at my ranks and be like, what the heck was I thinking? Because there's a lot of those what the heck moments. But I digress. But yeah, so I can't say I was in on him. I liked him. I just wasn't sure what to expect. And if Abrams finally comes into his own and shows he could be a 15-30 guy, because that's kind of, how just doubling. I'm lazily doubling his stats right now. If Abrams is a 15-30 guy,
that's tremendous.
I wonder where that's going to go next year, though, because then I don't know if I can pay for. I just don't want to overpay for 30 stolen bases.
The one thing I'll say is it won't go as high as I think. Well, maybe it will because of his age. But he feels like, because the shortstop is still so weirdly deep. Like, he feels like a Carlos Correa range, like 130, 140 ADP.
And then I'll probably just be out again and then be wrong again. Like,
just like everybody was out on my boy that's now got a broken hand, Thairo Estrada. But this is Thairo Estrada, but the better batting average. Well, actually, Tyro's hitting around 300. Never mind.
Yeah.
But
whoa.
Yeah, no, I wasn't expecting the batting average when I drafted Thairo everywhere. I just wanted the power and the speed. Abrams could give you more.
I overlooked Thairo. Like, I didn't think he was going to be able to produce. I think I was concerned about the playing time. The power too, a little bit, but the power. But I was also concerned, was Kapler going to just go? I know that Estrada kind of beat the whole thing last year, but they went out and signed a whole bunch of lefty specialists. I'm like, they're doing that thing again where I'm like, I'm just concerned with what they're going to do. So I kind of got nervous about Estrada, whiffed on it, and honestly, his injury sucks, but worked out for me not having any shares. You know the saying, no shares, no cares, baby. That's my saying. I made up.
That's a good saying to have.
It's actually an all people. Okay, can we talk about? Can we go on a tangent?
I did not expect it on the bingo card tonight.
Yeah, can we go on a tangent about that?
Sure.
Okay, it's okay to be happy when a player gets hurt and it's not on your team. I think we have to. I think people are like, the game is. Yes, we understand. I understand the actual.
This is not where I thought we were going.
The actual. Well, I'm annoyed by this. People are like, baseball. Injuries suck. That is true. Nobody likes everybody. Here's the thing: you don't need to show that you're a good person because, oh, look, the game is better because this person is like, the game is better because when this person's playing. No shit. Sorry. Like, obviously, everyone loves watching DeGrom pitch. He's a great pitcher, but if you don't have him on your teams, obviously there's a sigh of relief. Like, I dodged that bullet, and I believe it or not, it's okay to feel that way. You don't have to necessarily be I'm not saying root for injuries. That's stupid. But if an injury occurs and it's not your player or not player on one of your main teams, you should be relieved. It's okay to be like, well, I'm glad that wasn't me, because now that's playing into your competitive favor. I play this game to win. I do enjoy watching baseball more, but it's because of having fantasy players on various teams. And if there's a guy absolutely crushing it and suddenly goes down, I'm supposed to be sad because the game isn't going to be as enjoyable to watch? It's more enjoyable for me now because I'm going to be winning, or more likely to win. So excuse me for I'm not celebrating, but here's the thing: people are going to call this celebrating injuries. It's not. It's not. I'm not. Maybe it is. I don't know. Call what you want, but I'm right. I'm right now, because everybody who's playing for, even if you're playing for a free league, you want to win. I'm sorry that an injury to a player that's not on your team, a big name player on your team, it's okay to be like, whew. It's frustrating me, Bubba. This industry is so fake and fraudulent with a bunch of bullshit in between, man. It's aggravating.
I love it. Mike Kurland is on fire, folks.
But I'm not wrong, Bubba. I'm not wrong here.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm saving you from yourself real quick before you really.
No, I'm done with the rant. But I'm just. So I'm coming up with a shirt. I'm coming out with a shirt. It's gonna be no shares, no cares. Is gonna be the saying on it. I should get the trademark, because it's one of those things where I shouldn't feel bad, or I shouldn't feel guilty because I don't have that player on my team. Like, okay, it sucks that he got hurt, but am I supposed to, like, the game's not, like, obviously I love watching DeGrom pitch. I think it's a lot of fun to watch him pitch, but I think it's a lot more fun to win money or win my leagues.
Yep, that's fair. I'm not.
It should be fair, but here's the thing. Now, here comes. I'm gonna get called out on Twitter, or someone's gonna I'll be subtweeted, or at this point,
right? It's okay.
No,
it'll be fine.
But here's the thing: for whoever does that, feel free, clip the tweet, clip the audio, enjoy it, run me through the mud. You know why? I don't care. What do you? I'm looking at the camera. What are you gonna do? Oh no, my feelings are hurt. No, they're not. Yours are. Yours are.
Mine isn't on this podcast. It's been an electric factory today.
I'm just sick of the fake and the fraudulent in this industry. People are just like, people cry about everything. It's annoying. Believe it or not, it's okay to want to win your league. And if a player goes down that's a really good player and on your team, it makes your odds better to win. I'm not saying celebrate it, but I'm saying it's okay to feel a sense of relief that it wasn't your guy. That's all. There's a difference. There really is a difference because, I don't know. I'm kind of on repeat with this stuff. I do want people to understand I'm not rooting for injury, but I am happy when it's not my guy. That's it. I think that's fair.
No shares, no cares.
No shares, no cares, baby. Anyway,
three more players I want to discuss real quick. Joey Votto picked up in 62 leagues as high as 122. He comes out the gates, a couple home runs his opening weekend. Then he goes ice cold. Then he hits 4 more home runs last week. This seems like the roller coaster ride you're going to get with Joey Votto. So are you in or are you out on rostering a guy like Joey Votto full time? Because it's hard to decide when to play him, if that makes sense.
You just play the guy, man. He's hitting bombs. You want a piece of this offense. Obviously, if you really want to play this game, just play him at home. You could do that. You could treat him like a course player, like starting for the home series and then sit him for the non.
He hit 4 home runs last week on the road.
That's true. He did. I was just looking at his home road split. And if you actually look at his home road, that's what I'm saying. If you wanted to, but if you look at his home road splits, he's hitting 290 on the road right now and 192 at home. So it's really weird home road splits. Like they're not like, obviously we're talking beyond small samples. He still has a 900 OPS in both directions, but 900 plus OPS over 1,000 on the road. But and that's because of obviously the 4 home runs. So I think why not, man? If you need power, just show me somebody you've picked up off the waiver wire hitting for more home runs right now off the waiver wire. You're not getting them. So Votto is a guy that he's fringe in 12s because 12s, you can find really good valuable playing time.
Would you rather Cooper or Votto?
Okay, boring. In a vacuum, I'll take Votto because I like to shoot for upside in leagues where you're making that decision. But if I had to, if I'm getting nitpicky, it's team need. If you want a safer, higher floor guy who's going to give you a little more batting average help, it's going to be Cooper. But Votto has 7 home runs in 17 games. He has 7 home runs. That's more than half of what Cooper's done in 70 games. So I think that alone is why you go Votto. You just take Votto on the upside alone, that ballpark, batting towards the middle of that lineup. I'm learning to kind of target more so tools in players. And I've always been a guy that targets skill sets, but sometimes you just have to, I don't know. It's cool. It's okay to play it safe, but I'm realizing that I want that guy on a per plate appearance basis that can be a difference maker, not a guy that I don't necessarily want too many accumulators. And I don't know how much of a needle Cooper is going to be, moving, but I think Votto can move a needle in a category or two that Cooper can't. So I'll take my shot on Votto there.
Corey Julks added in 59 leagues as high as 41, as low as $1. Playing pretty regularly for now. Michael Brantley's going to be out for the foreseeable future, probably the whole season. Jordan Alvarez will come back soon, which will make things a little murkier by moving some guys around, even though he DHs primarily. But with Julks on the season, 282 with 15 steals. Over the last month, he's just been a consistent, he's hitting 330 with 8 steals. He's been a beast. So what are your thoughts on Corey Julks? Because I've streamed him from time to time this year, but right now he's almost I was always worried about him and McCormick and stuff switching around so much. But what are you seeing with Corey Julks?
I just don't know what to expect with playing time here. I think Julks might have the edge over McCormick, but we would see when Jordan comes back, because they're going to keep Yan or Diaz in there, right? Diaz isn't the full-time captain. You would think so. So so you got to figure that out. So Diaz is going to have to play some DH. Julks and McCormick get most of the outfield reps right now, but Jordan would have to get involved. And that's why it's I think McCormick's been playing well too. So it's not like McCormick hasn't earned his playing time. McCormick has started 4 straight. Corey Julks he started I think he took the last game off, but started the 6 games before that. So it was one of those things where he was due for a day off. And same thing, McCormick has played 6 out of 7 as well. So it's those are the 2 guys. If I had to guess, I guess Julks would probably have a slight edge, but I think it would come down to maybe defense. And I think McCormick might have the better defense. I'd have to go double check that. But at the end of the day, you want those guys on your team. I almost dropped McCormick. I'm no, he's just been too good on a per play appearance. And Julks could be that same type of guy where maybe he goes from an everyday established starter for your team to maybe you pick your spots. Okay, cool. Maybe he's playing 2 out of every 3. So you could pick your spots. Okay, he's gonna play 2 out of 3 here, 2 out of 3 here, and then you get this 2 out of 3 good series. And you're all right, cool. So I know he's gonna get 2 out of 3 here. This guy's probably due for a day off, and you kind of pick your matchups, But that's more of a deep league play. But how do you not play? Julks has been too good not to. It's just aggravating because it's one of those things where this team just has too many options for their own. It's frustrating. But I think at the end of the day, Jolks is solid, rather safe for playing time. I would say considering how well the bats played up, and kind of just roll him out there. I mean, he's giving you a little bit of everything.
Last but not least, Alek Manoah, added in 58 leagues, as high as 130, as low as $7. Made his return to the bigs, 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 run, an impressive and important 0 walks, with 8 strikeouts against the Detroit Tigers. It's a tough one for me because, like, I understand the talents there. He could be a beast. Was one start against the Tigers enough to get you on board? I was hesitant in certain places, more aggressive in others. How are you approaching Alek Manoah this week?
If he was out there,
him, but
that too. But in general, if he was out there, he's a guy that I would definitely be interested in, just because he showed glimpses of, like, he showed signs of life. Yeah, it was the Tigers, and people want to point that out, but he did it against the Tigers. And the reason why it matters is because
he needs to do it against the Tigers.
The Tigers are a team that you're supposed to dominate, and he dominated like you're supposed to. Like a stud pitcher would dominate a team. You know what I mean? Like, he dominated a team like he should, and no walks. I think the no walks is a huge deal because I think the last time he faced the Tigers, he had like 4 or 5 walks, and I think that was a big thing, was the walks, big walk issues. We saw Manoah. No velo gains or anything, but he increased the usage of the 4-seam and threw less sinkers. Not a huge shift in usage, but still a shift in usage nonetheless. With the 4-seamer, he gained 2 inches of vertical movement, so he was getting more rise out of it. And you can see, I think it was, again, Rob D. Me and Rob obviously go back and forth a lot on Twitter, or just talk a lot, or we interact a bunch and whatnot. But he brought up how he was locating it up in the zone more and showed the plots. I'm like, well, it makes sense, because if he was getting more vertical movement on it and less arm side run, that's how the ball he was still attacking the inside of it, but he was getting it up in the zone more regularly, which a 4-seamer, you want it up in the zone, sinkers inside, lower, whatever you might want them, however you want to run them. But so that's good, because now what you have is, if you're gaining more rise on that fastball, you would think so. If your fastball is going up, I'm Nick Pollock now, right? I'm talking about fastballs going up in the zone. I'm showing baseball, and then so you have the fastball going up. You have the sinker that could probably play off it, getting that arm side run. So it's like, instead of having 2 pitches, kind of both getting that same run, you're getting more differentiation in terms of movement from 2 different pitches. I think that's a big deal.
Quite a novel concept.
I know, right? It's very simple when you put it. I try to make it as simple as possible, but so, like, those fancy numbers I spit out, basically what it came down to was fastballs moving in a different direction. The sinker kept moving the same direction. He was able to locate him in different zones, and Manoah found success with a new look, with a better fastball, a better, more elevated 4-seamer, keeping the sinker the way it was, attacking the zone more, able to get those strikeouts without walking players. Long-winded way of saying there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic, but it was one start. We can't say he's back just yet. I do think he's not going to be as bad as he was.
Yeah,
but
I agree with that.
I think that there's just this weird, like, I don't know if we should. I don't want to be overly. He's a guy you should. I guess at the end of the day, yes, you should have definitely added him if he was available, or you should probably go out of your way to add him now, because we know how good he can be. Now, will he get back to form? He's not going to pay off for draft costs at all at this point. Blah blah blah. But there's a chance he gets close to back to at least what initial projections were, maybe like a low 4s ERA, high 3s rest of the season, which can be useful with some, and on a good team that'll get some wins in the process.
Yeah, and what was impressive about this start, it was only the 3rd start out of 14. He's thrown at least 6 innings. Only the 3rd start with 1 run or less, and the 8 Ks was his most of any game this season. So promising things. Like, there's part of me that maybe should have been more aggressive, because I think we'll at least get a better Manoah. I agree with you there. We'll see how it plays out.
Like, if he was, I'm just thinking, like, maybe like you know how bad, I guess usually Lance Lynn is more of like a, high 3s, low 4s ERA, solid K rate. Like, if he was that type of pitcher rest of the season, that wouldn't really surprise me, is what I'm getting at. I know Lance Lynn's a bad comp because Lance Lynn hasn't been Lance Lynn this year, but you get my point. Like, it's just that guy that's like just
Lance
solid.
Lynn's top 5 in Ks, but he has an ERA over 6.
Because he just cut. Last time I looked, he was just like always missing. He's just missing a spot in the zone from time to time, and he hangs them, they bang them. But he's gonna go to the Rangers and be a stud anyway.
Most likely.
But yeah, Manoah is just interesting. I think if Manoah was like a SP3 for you rest of season, like, that's like the ceiling. I think
he's solid.
But I do think he's going to be at least like an SP5 or a streamer or bench streamer for you rest of season. I think that is something you can expect. And if you can get a guy like this off the waiver wire who could be like a bench streamer / SP5, I think that has value in most formats. So, but no, that's it. I don't know. I'm probably gonna be wrong about him. I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't have many shares though, so it's not really a biased opinion.
Let's talk FAAB recap for the week for your results in your Your main, hashtag my main. What'd you pick up this last week?
Well, so Cowser, I dropped Kepler. That actually hurt because
I was kind of surprised when I saw you tweet that out. That was an interesting one to me.
Because I'm not biased. Kepler's good. Kepler's good. I like Kepler for power, and the playing time's there, and I just figured it was either him, McCormick, or Yaz, and I like McCormick and Yaz more because McCormick has the power and speed. Yaz has a little more. I trust Yaz's batting average to be very similar and probably more consistent power production. Yastrzemski, and then I'm like, Kepler, he's good. He's meh. Like he runs hot, but he's rather just whatever. So he was the drop there. And I say that again as someone who loves Kepler and was just wrong thinking that he'd be a shift gainer because he hasn't done nothing to do that. But anyway, so that was the move I made there, which again, because I wasn't expecting to get Cowser for 12, but I got him from $12, $8 runner up. And then I only made one other move, and it was dropping Kyle Wright for my boy Jake Irvin. It was your boy Jake Irvin once, but I've been sitting there just talking about Jake Irvin behind the scenes with like wax and stuff. Like, dude, this guy is like he had a velo jump 4 starts ago, and when the velo jumped up, it was like a notable jump. It was like from like 93, creeping up to 94, and it's been 95 or better, like a little like 95 and change on the 4 seam for the last 4 starts. And with it came, they were really good starts too. Here, I was talking to Phil about him too. See, go back to name dropping some big names. Here, I wrote the whole reasoning why I got him. So 22.2 innings pitched with a 3.57 ERA and a 1.19 WHIP. Ks have been awful for Irvin, but that was because he only got 1 K against Texas, and he has faced Arizona, Seattle, which isn't great, which isn't a tough matchup. I mean, Cincinnati and Texas. So I'd say 3 out of those 4 offenses are rather good offenses. And while facing those 4 offenses, Irvin gave those stats I mentioned. Unfortunately, it comes with like a 5 Sierra, 5 xFIP. So I don't know, like he got through. Is this like the toughest stretch he got through? Will Irvin turn around and actually be better? Will those underlying numbers be better against worse opponents because he faced such tough opponents? I think there's like a Kyle Gibson-ish type of upside, which in my leagues, 15 team, right?
15 is that works. At 12, it's a scary situation.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I'm like, he's not a 12 team guy. That's why I got him for $1. I dropped Kyle Wright, and you're like, well, Kyle Wright's way better. Yes, but
Kyle Wright pitch again.
And I was holding on hope to see. We haven't gotten updates on him. Kyle Wright's just gone ghost. There's a guy. There's a Twitter follower. I wish I remember his name. And very, very, he comments a lot. He's very, very active, and he's a huge Braves fan because his Twitter handle and everything. So I was just like, hey man, you follow the Braves. You ask, what do you know about? He's like, yeah, as far as he knows, last he heard, because he follows the Braves so closely, he's like, Kyle Wright is about 3 weeks behind Fried. And I did the math. I'm like, what? So we get, if we're lucky, we get a month out of Fried.
Yeah, then? out of Wright.
Out of Wright. You're right. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. I'm not right. Yeah. So out of Wright, we get about a month out of Wright, if give or take. Is like Fried's just now throwing bullpens, or he's about to start
a rehab assignment on. He threw a rehab on Sunday.
Okay, I was like, he's just
pitches. He's probably got 2 or 3 rehabs left.
So if he has 2 or 3 left, he's coming back. That's when you should, in theory, if he's truly 3 weeks behind Fried, Wright should be starting rehabs at the beginning to middle of August, which puts him on track for late August, early September. I was like, yeah. So for 4 or 5 starts, I'm like, am I really just not going to turn and burn that spot? Take a shot on Jake Irvin, use that spot to take a closer spec next week if Irvin sucks or it doesn't come through. So I was like, yeah. So I moved on from Kyle Wright. I only made those 2 moves I made because A, I'm trying to save money, and B, it's the short week. I thought I was set up. I think I'm set up pretty well for it. I didn't need to make a whole lot of I had a relief pitcher already to stash to attack the 3-game week for it and all that. So,
yeah, and I agree with your Jake Irvin sentiments. That's why I was kind of like, he's a good streamer from time to time type guy. For me, I felt like in my first OC, I didn't get anybody this past week. I got outbid on everybody I was going for, but I wasn't being super aggressive because A, money, B, I kind of like same like you just said. I felt set up for this short week where I didn't need to really force anything just to force it. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go add guys. I'm not going to start like that. That's a way to waste money in my mind, unless they're like locked in guys. And I bid on those guys. I just got outbid on them. My OC2 though, this is where I started to take chances, especially because I need offense in this league. I need offense in a big way. So I got one guy. I lost out on everybody else, but I actually had almost $300 in this league still somehow because I've lost every freaking bid everywhere. So I overbid on this player, but I'm willing to take the chance just in case he can ever get healthy and find a glimmer of hope for like the last month and a half of the season. So I grabbed Tyler O'Neill off the waiver wire. Tyler O'Neill, I dropped Paul Blackburn. It was 22, runner up of 6. I'm like, I want to get him. I need to guarantee I get him. Yeah. I know I'm going to overbid, but this is the time of the year. And if like he can even be a 75% of what he was before, that power speed combo for a month and a half could be tremendous in helping me move. So I'll take my chances with Tyler O'Neill there. So there is one spec in our spec conversations. And then my OC1 was full of specs. I got Tyler O'Neill. I dropped Paul Blackburn. Got Zach Neto. Dropped Edward Oliveros. Neto's supposed to be back maybe this weekend even, if not beginning of next week. And that was a 12 to 11 bid. That made me very happy. And then just to complete, I'm just going to stash a dude because I need pitching, and there's not much. This league, the entire year, this is like an early OC. This entire year, pitching has been just because guys drafted a lot of the spec guys. So then when they dropped them, it's hard to get pitching in this league. So Nestor Cortez is out there. He's supposed to be back at the beginning of August. He's starting to throw now. So I just dropped Cutter Crawford, picked up Nestor Cortez just as a complete stash, like because there's nothing out there at all. So I took my chances in that regard. So yeah, it was a complete just spec and see situation and go from there. All right, let's talk listener questions real quick, and then we'll let Mr. Kurland go to bed as it's getting late, and he's got work tomorrow.
I have to, my alarm is set to go off in 4 hours. So.
Beautiful. Jury Rigger asks, what pitchers are due for second half rebounds? Alek Manoah, best non-closers who will become closers post-trade deadline. Thanks. So second half rebound starting pitchers, who you looking at?
Well, there's one that comes to mind right away, and I happened to tweet about him the other day, so I'm looking for the tweet. But it's I think maybe it's a layup, but it's Sandy. I think Sandy Alcantara or Alcantara.
Can't be much worse for what
well, so my understanding is that Alcantara identified a mechanical issue about 4 starts ago that he corrected, like mid-start. So the 3 starts, I didn't include that start or mid-start, whatever. I said his last 3 starts essentially. Sandy has a over 18.2 innings pitch for Alcantara. I keep messing up. You would think I would know by now. For Sandy, we're on first name basis. We're cool like that. A 2.89 ERA, a 3.24 xFIP, a 3.77 Sierra. So very Sandy-esque. A 50.9% ground ball rate. The K- walk rate, league average-ish, around 15.8%. K- walk rate for Sandy, so it's kind of, but that's kind of what he's never really been a big strikeout guy, you know. So we've always just like, so if he's giving you about a strikeout inning or maybe a little less, I think is what it was. But this comes with like a 39.9% O swing and a 14.1% swing strike rate for him over these 3 starts. So the strikeout potential is still there, but he's Sandy's he's inducing ground balls. He still has swing and miss. And he's kind of showing he's been himself the last 3 starts. And I think there's no reason why if that was a mechanical issue that he saw, was able to correct, and has since found success in 3 straight starts, which included a start against the Braves that he gave up, I think, 4 earned runs, which is a win. I'm sorry, that's a win. That's a win anytime a pitcher only gives up 4 earned runs, like 5 or 6 innings against the Braves. But yeah, I think Alcantara is going to be in for a solid second half, enough to where people might not overdraft him next year. He might just fall into like that fringe top 20 guy. He'll be set up for a solid SP2 next year in drafts probably, or like I'm going to fall back and wait and say that makes Sandy my SP1, but at a cost that makes sense. But I think he's going to show up next for the second half. So Sandy Alcantara is my pick.
Yeah, Lance Lynn's still a guy I'm going to go to. I'm sorry.
I'm telling you, he's going to the Texas Rangers. He's going to crush it.
You just look at all of his underlying, ERA indicators. They're all like in half. The strike, and the biggest thing why I've kept riding him, I haven't dropped him. I might not start him every week now. The strikeouts have not stopped. They've actually gotten better. Like the dude's doing his thing. He's got to keep the damn ball in the ballpark, and that would change a ton. I know it's a big if, but we'll see how that plays out. So I'll go Lance Lynn. And you mentioned some potential new closers after the trade deadline. I could see David Bednar getting bounced out of Pittsburgh. We said that last year, and it didn't happen. There's 0 reason for that to stick around this year. So then you got the likes of there's a lot of options there. I don't know. Maybe Holderman looks like the next man up. He had the blown save a couple starts ago. Other than that, like anybody else you're really looking to for the trade deadline?
So
somehow Josh Hader's rumored, and I don't get it. I just don't.
Again?
Yeah, I don't understand it, but maybe he will be.
I know the popular spec, at least in Maine's right now, is Carlos Fernandez for the Royals because there's already they already shipped out Chapman. They have what's his face that they're looking to ship out to. So
Barlow.
Thank you. So they're going to sell Barlow probably more likely. That leaves Fernandez, and then a guy that I've been keeping an outside. It's a guy that I've been talking to everybody about. So it's another little behind the curtain of a guy that I have my eye on that maybe it'll turn out to be. And I think I've texted the group about this. Our group chat is Mason Thompson for the Nationals. This weird infatuation with Nationals pitchers all of a sudden between Jake Irvin and Mason Thompson's been a guy I've been watching all year. He's been good, and I wouldn't be surprised if I know people are talking about how they won't trade Harvey. But if they trade Hunter Harvey and they trade Finnegan, Thompson becomes the next guy. But I'm looking at teams like this, like there's so many more buyers than ever before. This allows teams the last couple of years to move multiple late inning guys. So normally in a given year, you'll see a team give up one, maybe two arms out of their bullpen just because there's only so many buyers. But last year I noticed there was a lot of teams giving up like 2+ guys out of their bullpens. I was like, that's a lot of relief pitchers getting moved. So I'm looking like there's no more. I'm not just looking to stash next man up. I'm looking to stash like in deeper formats specifically. I'm looking at like who's pitching the 7th right now. Like who can make that jump from the 7th to 9th if or when they trade two of these arms, because there's so many less teams selling compared to more teams buying,
that's
especially
why
cheaper arms.
I could see them doing that. So I think it's not a bad.
That's why that name came to mind, because Thompson consistently pitches the 7th or 8th when he's in. He doesn't get the save ops, the other two do, but he's always the guy setting them up, getting the holds.
That's fair.
So that was the name. It's always, and that's why it's like you have to look for. Unfortunately, we're at the time of the year where we're looking at guys on bad teams, like your specs are there, or you're hoping to get a hold of a guy that might get traded to a situation where you can get like Chapman. People were holding on Chapman, hoping he can get a spot, but he end up in the wrong team. So
yeah. Walt Malyuchnik asks, should we feel cautiously optimistic about Manoah's second half? I think we agreed. Yeah, be a little optimistic there. That's fine. Todd Whitestone said, can you guys give our second half outlook for 3 desperate players? First, Nick Pivetta, who's become the full-time long reliever, getting a lot of action there. What's your thoughts on Nick Pivetta?
I know he just kind of had like I think it was a roughed up outing when he came in as like a reliever, but like a multi-inning reliever recently.
It wasn't bad.
It was 5 innings pitched. No, it wasn't that bad. It was 5 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 8 strikeouts. So the velo was up. Okay, that was what it was. It wasn't bad. It was the velocity. I do the savant notes, so I mixed them up. The velocity was still up even in the 5-inning outing. That's what caught my attention, because his velo was up as a reliever, which is normal. But then he came in and pitched 5 innings, and the velo stayed. That's where it becomes intriguing, and there's some upside. And I think you chase that. Why not give that a look? Because anytime you can get some type of production correlated with a change in some type of something under the hood, which in this case is velocity uptick. Although again, it was Oakland. I think Pivetta. It's just one of those things where it's Pivetta though, so it's like he can run hot for 4 or 5 starts, and then what?
Yep. Yep. Give me Lance Lynn over Nick Pivetta. I'll say it now. Let's go that route. Yep. I'll take that stand. Let's go. That's a bold. I know. I got you. He asked about Zach Neto, who I just mentioned. I picked him up as a spec before he got hurt over his last 8 games at 409 with 3 homers and 2 steals, 15% K, 15% walk rate. I know that's a hot streak, but he's starting to show the talents that they drafted him for. So I think if he comes back healthy, he's definitely someone that can be a middle infield support. Any thoughts on Zach Neto?
No, I think exactly you nailed it right there. When he was starting to turn it on in June, he was hitting 355, 444, 710. So game over 1,000 OPS in the month of June. And he was starting to kind of click. And you have to remember, he barely played any minor league baseball. They kind of brought him up this year. They brought Neto up this year with like no experience, and he just needed to get a chance to get going. And I mean, he had the talent, he has the pedigree. Why not buy into what we were seeing the gains? There's always been since the beginning of the season a strong plate approach in terms of like doesn't strike out a lot, he walks a decent amount. The barrel rate's 9%, 9.3%. So there's skills there, and I think Neto next year is gonna be one of those guys that will start off getting drafted at a certain spot, but then creep up as the offseason goes along. He's gonna be that guy that's like starts off the year as like reserve round pick or for maybe a middle infield type that people might push into like a starting shortstop type before the end of the draft season type of thing. But anyway. Neto's a guy that I really like moving forward. As long as he comes back, as long as the oblique didn't derail him too much. But honestly, even if it does, I'm not going to be discouraged, and it's not going to stop me from. I'll take the discount next year. So I'll take a bad second half, I guess. If it gives me a discount next year, I'll take a bad second half.
And the third player I mentioned was Chris Taylor of the Dodgers. He's rehabbing right now. Should be back soon. He's just a mess. 2-minute swing and miss, 206 average. But he has the power and speed. If you can handle the batting average dump. He'll play every day or close to every day for the Dodgers because they just need help, period, with their platoon situations. But maybe you know more than me. I'm just kind of out on Chris Taylor.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Chris Taylor guy. I mean, and a lot of the people, he was like his playing time was weird too, because you mentioned it. He didn't really play a whole lot. Like it was mostly like against lefties with some righties. And if you look at the splits on the year, 618 OPS against righties compared to 892 OPS against lefties. So Chris Taylor is clearly going to play against lefties. Righties, he's struggling mightily. A 68 WRC plus against righties for Chris Taylor. So like I understood the appeal if you're chasing a little bit of pop and the fact that he's stealing bases and all that. So there's some tools there. But I don't expect consistent playing time, and I don't expect all that much production against righties. So that leaves me with a guy that I'm not going to know when to start him or ever feel comfortable starting him, and I'm not. And I guess I get it. Good team, power, speed is there, but when you're that bad against what would be the strong side of a platoon, Taylor just scares me in terms of like I don't feel comfortable ever really playing him.
And then the last thing he mentioned is if I can ask you to please stop tweeting about the Yankees, okay? Good.
I don't know what do I say about the Yankees. I do know I did talk to him about how much I was really upset about being in on Oswaldo Cabrera and being really wrong about that. But there was a thing where I was like, hey man, like at least I learned something from. That's where it goes back. I learned something from Phil. Like I cut Oswaldo Cabrera on a 15-teamer, and for up until like 2 weeks, I think I was 2 weeks early on cutting him because I think 2 weeks before, like it was like 2 weeks after he was still like 93% rostered. And I had cut him 2 weeks prior. So I was like, I felt pretty good about that one. That one worked out. So it's like one of those things where I learned something there. Like, you gotta be a little cutthroat with some of these guys. He was a final 5 to 7 round pick. Can't get too attached to him. Some guys more than others, but he wasn't showing a damn thing. But anyway, sorry, Todd.
Last but not least, Michael Simeone says, what's Kurland going to do when he goes from 8th overall to 2008 overall?
You saw the GIF.
Oh, I know. I had to ask.
The rope is going to be
listener questions.
I'm going to tell you right now. The rope is going to be around my neck. I'm going to be looking for something to hang it over. It's like, just like the GIF showed, man. No, it was like instantly. I was like, I was like, I need to go find a GIF like that shows that. And I was like, oh, found it. Perfect GIF. Like it wasn't like I'm looking to make a news. So it wasn't like it's around my neck. I'm ready to like that would be the worst. Like obviously, that would be a total collapse. I look at my team now. I like my team where it's at. I like where it should be in about 2 to 3 weeks when health hopefully is in my favor. And even before then, I still have a pretty solid foundation. A decent enough bench to get me by. I really don't see myself. I really think my team can finish in the top 30 and hit that bonus money. Honestly, I think it would take a collapse and a really bad injury, really bad injury luck to not get there. But I mean. I've recently, like for instance, like the reason why I have no money left is because I got Henry Davis as my C2 to go with Sean Murphy. I got Jordan Westberg to replace Royce Lewis. So when Royce Lewis returns, I have that depth and another 2 solid players. I got Colton Cowser by sheer luck to add to my outfield depth. Cedric Mullins just returned. So it's like I have a team set up to make a run. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. is coming back around, thankfully. I needed that. But he's been a big surprise this year. So it's not by accident. I'm not here on accident. I've made a point to obviously sure my team up in terms of having some depth, attacking some needs via. I didn't really. One thing you've noticed, I haven't really gone after the huge splash. I guess I never really needed that. Like I'm not against it. Like if I didn't have Gosman this year, there's probably a good chance I would have just gone and spent $300-$400 on a pitcher, honestly. But Gosman and my depth helped me stop me from doing that, and I was able to kind of. Instead of having a couple big buys, I just kind of stayed in that middle ground of just attacking it and hitting very, very, like hitting those middle ground needs as it went along. So like when Henry Davis came up, I was like, cool, I could use a catcher too. Boom, I could use a middle infielder. I'm gonna go for Lewis. Lewis got hurt again, shocker. And then I was like, I need one again. Let me just go for Westberg. And so it's like I left myself that flexibility to do so, but also while being flexible, I was also aggressive, which has left me with a little bit of less money than I'd want to be at this point. But it's also at a point now. It's like I don't look at my team and think, damn, I have a hole. I look at my team like, all right, cool. I'm making tough start sits right now. I like being in that position where I'm like, I'd rather be wrong than not have the opportunity to even make those tough decisions, type of thing.
Makes sense.
So anyway, Simeone, if you're listening, you can suck it, buddy. Because I'm not gonna let you bring me down. I mean, you're gonna have to hear. If I finish strong, you're gonna have to hear about the rest of your life.
Bro, just know that. I can't wait. I can't wait to see that, witness that. And
I'm gonna assert my dominance and be insufferable on Twitter when it comes to only with Simeone though. I'll be super humble otherwise and never talk myself up at all. But with Simeone, I'll just remind him that I'm better than him. I can already say it because he'll never do this.
I can't wait to see that, and I can't wait to get your updates throughout the upcoming weeks here as we talk more on the show.
As I cry about my team going 1 for 15 to start the night, then turn around and hit 300 the rest of the night.
That's why I always kind of give you the middle finger on our group chat, like calm the hell down. Like it's just one level. I get it. I know.
It's hard not to.
Hey, I got to get you to bed, so I'm not gonna let you keep going. So it's late on the East Coast. We've covered everything. I'll give you a short burst. Any final words?
Can we talk about those injuries? No, I'm kidding. It was nice to get back on the microphone, Bubba. It's always fun to catch up, and look forward to getting back onto it next week, hopefully.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, well, we'll be in touch. We'll get you on as long as your work schedule allows. We'll have some more fun recapping FAAB, and after 3 full games, we'll have to see what FAAB gets broken down for the following week. As we are not on the home stretch, but we're getting close. Like you can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Start to. It's kind of
it's a reflection off the side. Like there's one final turn in the tunnel, and you can see the reflection of the outside on that tunnel. You're not quite there.
It's there. So
I think it's there once we hit single digit weeks left.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So we'll keep you guys updated the best we can. Keep you going and grinding through the rest of the season. But until next time, you can find Mike on Twitter at Mike_Kurland. I'm on Twitter at BDentric. This is Bench with Bubba, episode 597. Catch y'all next time.